The Chair She Sat In, Tales from the Angel's Share, Volume 3, by Marilla Sands, read by Rett MacPherson. Chapter 1. The Fright House of Fenton looked anything but scary. In fact, from the outside, the two-story McMansion looked like every other house on the street. Beige with white trim, two-car garage, well-manicured lawn. Completely unremarkable, except no family had managed to spend more than a few nights here, and real estate agents had given up on it. Why my boss wanted me to look into a haunted house was a mystery. I'd given up trying to make sense of the world once I realized the supernatural existed. So I accepted there could be something unexplainable in the house that was scary enough to keep people out. I just didn't know why it was any of my business to be here. Kind of disappointing to look at, said Castro. He had decided that if I were going to be involved in the supernatural, he was going to be too. After all, two supernatural creatures had nearly cut his heart out about a month ago, so I guess he was entitled to get in the middle of everything with eyes wide open. He'd always been someone who liked things like stories about Bigfoot and TV shows about ghost hunting. It was me that had never been interested, and now it was me that was involved in a lot of shit I'd rather not think about. I unlocked the front door and walked right in. Castro followed a bit more slowly. The interior was as tan and dull as the outside. I entered the large kitchen. It had stainless steel appliances, red granite countertops, an island with room for 4 bar stools along one side, and even an overhead rack of hanging pots. Not that there were any pots on it now. I doubt anyone had stayed long enough to unpack the boxes marked kitchen. Castro was reading off his phone. 3 bedrooms upstairs, 1 on the main floor. 2.5 baths, laundry room off the garage, full basement, framed in, not finished. Yeah, I saw the listing. He looked up from the glowing screen and slowly scanned the open plan first floor. I've never lived in anything close to this. This is pretentious? I was going to say ostentatious, but you beat me with your $10 word. They're both $10 words. But you said yours first. He smiled and leaned over to kiss me on the cheek. Now, where shall we set up? I put down the duffel bag I'd lugged into the house. I have no idea this is your area. My area of interest maybe, but not expertise. When is the expert going to get here? I don't know. I don't even know who Ware is sending. Ware was my boss and one of the people I'd met who'd revealed he used to be some kind of X-winged mythological type being now stuck on Earth. Why Ware had any interest in this house was something he had failed to explain. He had also failed to say anything about who would be helping us, except to say to expect someone. My money was on that someone to be another X-winged creature. Not like my life was getting weird or anything. Can you sense anything? Asked Castro. What am I, a ghost detector now? Castro just unzipped the duffel bag. Look, I have no idea what you can do, but Ware and the others keep saying you're somebody special, so I don't know. Are you a ghost detector? I don't believe in ghosts. Castro glared at me. All right, I don't believe in this sort of ordinary clomp down the hallway orbs and photos kind of ghost. Clearly, fallen angels, or at least the things that started the stories about angels, exist. And whatever it is that Ware keeps in the back. I shuddered. I hadn't taken a close look, but something that looked and smelled a bit like a pile of old leaves had scuttled around my feet the one time I'd been in Ware's private office. I didn't really want to know what it was, because I suspected I wouldn't like the answer. He wanted you along for a reason, assuming he has your best interests at heart, and I'm not sure that he does, but hey, let's say he does. Then you're supposed to be an asset and you're not in any danger. I didn't say anything to that. What was there to say? I wasn't sure Ware had my best interests at heart either, and he was the one who was the most likely to be on my side. Of course, if hauntings aren't real, no one's in danger, I said. I'll go along with the part about your standard issue hauntings probably aren't real, said Castro, but something has scared a lot of people out of this house, and we are among the few people who know there really are supernatural things living or existing, or whatever, in St. Louis. So sure, this might not be what most people think of as a haunting, but I'm absolutely sure it's not nothing. Comforting, which of course it was not. Let's check around the house since the expert's not here yet. I shrugged. Might as well. We were stuck here for a weekend at least, so we should know the layout of the home. I headed for the stairs, but Castro stopped me with a laugh. Seriously? Everything supposedly happens in the basement. Now it was my turn to glare at him. Why would I want to go to the basement? On the other hand, what did it matter? I'd have to eventually. Here for a weekend at least, yep. Cue the big sigh and the regret that I'd ever agreed to this. Fine, I said, let's check out the basement. The stairs to the basement were on the far side of the kitchen. Castro went down first and I followed. He took a camera with him. We're not even set up yet and you're already taking pictures? Why not? I want to do something, investigate. That was so foreign to me. I just wanted to go home, look in on our pet hedgehog Petunia, and watch a movie. Those days were exceedingly rare because my bartending job kept me out most evenings. Thus, it was always a treat when Castro and I could just do something for ourselves in our apartment and lock the world outside where it belonged. This ghost hunting expedition was ruining that for me, and I resented it. The basement was partially finished, as the listing said. To my right were the bare essentials, 2x4s affixed together. To my left, someone had managed to get up a few panels of drywall, so there was at least one full room down here. Or maybe two. It was hard to tell from the bottom of the stairs. Exciting, I said. Castro laughed. You might sound bored, but I bet you're just a little intrigued. Suddenly, I heard footsteps upstairs. I froze. No one had mentioned phantom footsteps in the house. Ware had only said stuff about sobbing in the basement and doors that opened themselves. A creepy feeling crept up my spine and I shivered. Hey, where are you guys? Shouted the squeaky voice of Castro's friend Andre. I relaxed. Downstairs. I glared at Castro. You didn't say he was coming. Although actually I was relieved. I had been wondering how Castro and I could possibly watch the house and record data for 48 hours straight without someone to spell us. Now we had Andre. I was just a little put out that Castro hadn't said anything. Castro shrugged. I didn't actually think he was coming. He was interested, but then he said he had other things to do. That made sense. Andre was capable of finding a date whenever he wanted, but so far was incapable of finding second dates. That had always struck me as a little weird. Andre seemed like a perfectly nice guy, so why couldn't he find someone? The upshot was that his schedule tended to be unpredictable and his attendance at social events was sporadic. Andre thudded down the stairs. Even though he was a string bean, he always walked as though he weighed 300 pounds. Surprisingly, he was followed by a hollow-cheeked girl with screaming red hair and massive tattoos down each arm. She also sported a nose ring and lots of dark makeup that made her skin look sallow. Hi, said Andre. This is my cousin Brooklyn from Las Vegas. She's staying with me for a little while. The look on Andre's face was a combination of embarrassment, presumably for foisting this cousin on us, and annoyance, possibly because a little while had already been longer than he'd like. Hi, said Castro. Of the two of us, he was the more outgoing, and he also had a deep-seated need to make others comfortable in awkward situations. He claimed that was because he'd spent far too much time in foster homes where everyone spent their days walking on eggshells. Andre stepped into the basement and looked around nervously. He rubbed his chin where I spotted the beginnings of a goatee. Any weird stuff yet? We just got here, said Castro. He walked up to Brooklyn and extended his right hand. Welcome to our little weekend experiment in the paranormal. Brooklyn's sour face took on a slightly more relaxed cast, and she shook Castro's hand. I'm Castro, he said, and this is Teryl. I nodded to Brooklyn, and she actually smiled a little. I got the feeling she hadn't been genuinely welcomed by anyone for a long time. But hey, if she could help work the equipment and take some late night or early evening shifts to let me get some sleep, I was all for having another assistant. Have you ever done something like this before? Asked Castro. Brooklyn shook her head. Nah, I haven't even watched those ghost hunting shows Andre likes. She won't watch a scary movie, said Andre with a frown. I can't show her all of my favorites. I knew Andre's favorites included some all-time classics as Night of the Living Dead, but also clunkers like Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Andre's taste might best be summed up by the fact that he liked both versions of The Wicker Man, which shouldn't be humanly possible. Okay, I said, we probably ought to start setting up what little equipment we have. Brooklyn froze, her eyes suddenly focused on a spot just behind me. What's that? Slowly I turned. Castro had already snapped a couple of pictures. The half-done drywall was all I saw. Dunno, I said. I saw something, Brooklyn insisted. I swear there was something there. I believe you, I said. You don't, she said. No one ever does. I turned back to her. Her eyes were now staring at her feet. She lifted her gaze to me slowly, a look of defiance on her face. I said I believe you, and I do, I said. I was told by someone who knows about these things that there's something here. Maybe you're more sensitive to it than me. Brooklyn visibly relaxed. That made me wonder about the no one ever does comment. Did this girl think she was a psychic or something? Andre shifted his weight awkwardly. Brooklyn sees a lot of things. Okay, psychic. Or something. Brooklyn shot him an angry glance, but before she could say anything, the doorbell rang. Andre nearly jumped out of his skin. Brooklyn looked like she might faint. Doorbell. Just a doorbell, said Castro. That's probably the expert that's supposed to show. Brooklyn and Andre fled up the stairs with me and Castro close behind. I went to the front door and opened it. Staring at me was indeed one of those X-winged supernatural creatures like my boss. This one looked like a refugee from Woodstock with shapeless clothing and long, straight, darkly brown hair. What truly stood out about her was her eyes. They were a stunning green, making the frumpiness of the rest of her appearance fade from one's consciousness. Her eyes would catch yours and hold on, and everything else became unimportant. She might not be an actual angel, only something inhuman that helped found the legends of angels, but that didn't mean she didn't have a certain ability to compel the attention of the humans around her, even with the ridiculous hippie ensemble. Hi, Lucy, I said. Welcome to the Fright House.